Hi there, I'm Kathy Barker from Software Solutions, and you're looking at one of a collection of videos about how you can transform data using Power Query inside of Power BI. Please like my videos or subscribe to my videos. I appreciate the feedback. All right, let's have a look at how we can merge data, split data, group data, because often the data isn't in an immediate usable format. First of all, to show you how we can merge columns, I'm going to take you to the dim employees query. And what I want to do is duplicate this. So I'm going to go Control C, Control V, and that duplicates it. I might put that into my other queries group. So I'll drag it down and put it into other queries. I'm then going to rename it. So I'll press F2, employees data. Okay, now let's have a look at deleting some of the steps. Starting with insert merge column, I want to delete from that point downward. So I right click insert merge step and I delete until the end. And that's a quick way to delete all the steps from that point down. Excellent. Now what I want to do is move some of these columns. I want to move, for example, title of courtesy and put it before first name. So I simply drag title of courtesy and drop it before first name. And I want to move last name after first name. So I've got title of courtesy followed by first name followed by last name. And I want to merge these three columns into one column, and I'm going to call that full name. Now when I merge these into one column, it's going to be an added column. It's not going to transform, it's going to be added. So I click on the first column, I shift click on the last column, and if I go to add column, I'm able to merge them using the merge columns button. It basically asks me, what do I use as a separator between the title of courtesy, the first name and the last name? Well, I just want to use a space, so I choose that from the options, but I've got a number of options here and even custom if what I want is not listed. But I'm just going to put a space between them, and I want to call this column full name. When I click OK, it will have added a column to the very end of my query called full name, and it's joined my title of courtesy, my first name and the last name. I want to click that column, and if I go to transform, I can move that column to the beginning. And so it moves it to the beginning, and then I'll just put it to the right of employee ID. So it's really easy to merge columns if you need to. The next thing I want to do is I want to select the home phone and the extension columns and join them together. So if I scroll to the right, you'll find home phone, hold the control key or the shift key, whichever is more natural, and select those two columns. I want to merge them, and I am going to transform or add. I'm going to transform, which means I'm going to replace both of these columns with a new improved version of these two columns. So I go to transform and I go to merge. And if I want to merge the columns, there's the button there. Now what I want as a separator is not listed, so I'm going to go to custom this time. The separator I'd like between the home phone and the extension is space, EXT, and space. So it'll have the home phone, then a space, then the 3 letters extension, then a space, and the actual extension. And I'm going to give the name to this column phone and extension. And OK. So it's replaced, transformed those two columns with one column called phone and extension, joined it together and put a space, extension, space between the phone and the extension. I then want to save that so it updates my Power BI. Okay, so we know how to merge columns, but the opposite of merging is splitting. So sometimes we want to split data into multiple columns. Let's, for example, go to the volunteers list. There it is there, the query called volunteers list. I've got this column called name, and I want to split it into first name and last name because that gives me more power as far as manipulating the data. So I'm going to go and select the name column, and I'm going to go to the Home tab where I have the option to split the column. Now when it comes to splitting columns, you've got a variety of choices, which makes this a powerful feature. We can split this column into two based on, or more, based on a delimiter such as a space. A space could split Kathy and Sue into one column and Barker and Jones into another column, or we could split it based on the number of characters, or we could split it by a certain position, or we could split the data based on lowercase going to uppercase or uppercase going to lowercase. Or if it was digits and non-digits, we could split it at the point that a digit changed to a non-digit or a non-digit changed to a digit. So some really powerful splitting options. I'm just going to go for delimiter because of all of them, it's probably the most common one. So by delimiter. It then asks me, what delimiter do you want to use? And space is the correct option. And it's going for each occurrence of that delimiter. So every time there's a space, it's going to split. Now, if I've got, say, Van Berg, which is actually a surname, then I don't want Van in one column and Berg in the other. So I'm actually going to go by the leftmost delimiter, split it by the leftmost space. And when I go OK, it will split that into two columns. This one, I can then click and press F2 and call first name. This one, I can then click and press F2 and call last name. And so merging is one thing and splitting is another thing. Really, really powerful features. Now we also have the option to group. So what I'd like to do here is grab the fact orders query and I want to duplicate it. Control C, Control V. Here's facts 2. I'm going to drag that into my other queries. And I'm going to double click and I'm going to rename it order summary. And I want to summarize what's going on with these orders. Now, if I then go to the Home tab, there's a Group By button, and this is what I want to show you. And so I'm going to group by shipping country. I want to group by ship country, and I want to name the new column freight, and it's dollars. So I want to put freight dollar. Oops. Sorry, I can type. Freight dollar. I don't want to count. I actually want to sum. I want to sum, but notice I've got all these functions. I want to sum the column freight. So I'm wanting to, this copy, I'm wanting to group by the shipping country. And for every shipping country, I want to total the amount of freight we've spent or has cost us and show the column with that heading there. So I go OK. And so here's your shipping country and here's the sum of the freight in a column called freight dollar. So it's really easy to be able to group by data. And I often want to duplicate a query to do that. And then if I want to sort, I'll hit this drop down and I'll sort ascending order. So Argentina's at the top, Venezuela's at the bottom, and I've got all my freight figures. So merging, splitting, grouping, all possible with Power Query.